All right. All right. Good morning, gang. We're going to wait for a few more minutes for some folks to hop in here, and then we will get started. If you can hear me, then please just drop me a little line in the chat box. And everyone hear me? Right. Awesome. Thanks for that. All right. I've got my colleague, Mr. Steve Merca, joining us too. Let's see, Steve, I unmuted you, so if you wanted to say a few words or interrupt me or tackle me as we make our little webinar here, then please do so. See, this is my first time using Microsoft Teams for a webinar, so we'll see how this works today. Okay. A bunch of people popping in here all of a sudden, so I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. Still people popping in here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today at Mortgage Financial Services. We are here to serve you as mortgage professionals and find ways to help you close more loans. Let's see here. Okay, I've got more people still popping in. So funny story. I'm joining you today from literally a closet here at Dallas Love Field. My plane was a little late coming in, so we adapt, we improvise, and we commandeer closets at the airport in order to host webinars. So today we're going to talk about just kind of a broad kind of a down payment assistance overview with the TSAHC product. Obviously we're huge proponents of it. We're proud and happy to be the ones to really pioneer bringing these programs to the mortgage broker community. A lot of folks don't realize it, but it only up until 2021, brokers were not allowed to use the TSAHC programs. In 2022, it started. So think about this real quick. In 2021, TSAHC did roughly 23,000 units for approximately $5 billion worth of home loans. The broker share of that was 0.0, which is truly unfortunate. So we worked together with TSAHC. We helped pioneer to roll this out to the TPO channel, and really it's taken off. It's been kind of my mission or my goal to get mortgage brokers to be in the top 5. Right now we just hit the top 15 mark. Now I want to get mortgage brokers into the top 5 category. So real quick, if you think back, right? So in 2021, 22,000 units were originated by retail mortgage bankers providing the TSAHC down payment assistance program, which means that there's a pretty good chance that there's a lot of realtors out there, or even possibly home builders, that may not realize that you as a that may not realize that you as a mortgage broker have the ability to offer these products and programs. So I want to get you guys kicked off here today with kind of a 101 on, what is the TSAHC down payment assistance and closing cost program, and then just really hammer home that point so that way y'all are confident when you're out there selling that TSAHC programs are not just for retail anymore, right? They're for you as the mortgage professional. Let's see here. Okay, no, I've still got people popping in there. All right, so just some housekeeping items. I just want to point out that I think one of the things that really makes us special over here at Mortgage Financial Services, especially in regards to the down payment assistance programs, is that we have an entire department that literally all this team does is help our mortgage broker partners with down payment assistance loans. So they are niche deals. They're not hard, but they're different. And because they're different, it really does take a little bit of some special handholding with that. And so I just want to introduce, so I know Steve Merck is on the call here. Steve runs our DPA deal desk, if you will. And he's got his lovely daughter, Jordan, that's been in the mortgage industry for a long time as well, working with them at his right hand. So these two folks are there to literally look at every single DPA loan when they come in and make sure that they're going to, that they're going to work. So the last thing we want to do is have anybody, wasting their time with a loan that's not going to work. So we want to look at it up front, make sure it's awesome, and then we'll push it through. And then at the same time, too, you always have someone to talk to if it boils down to any sales questions or even scenarios that you want to run by. Myself, John Hudson. I've got Brad Parlin that works with me, Jessica Little, and as well Jacob Springer. And don't worry, I'm going to be sending out this PowerPoint presentation to everyone so that way you've got all of our contact info. But I think the biggest thing that I always tell folks, especially regarding down payment assistance or mortgages in general, is there's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question that's really, I guess, that's out there is the only one that you were too afraid to ask, right? Because if you don't ask, you don't know. And if you don't know, then you might lose that loan to the fairway guy down the street, which nobody wants. So that's what we've got to do is make sure that you understand that, you could reach out to us anytime. Our mission is to literally help you close more loans, because if I could help everyone here on the call close just one more loan a month or one more loan a quarter, whatever it is, well, that's one more loan for us. And that is the mentality that we take. So why are you here? why are any of us here? And I think, when it comes to down payment assistance, I'm sure everyone has noticed that the market has really shifted. And when rates were at 2 and 3%, hell, everybody could qualify for a house, right? There was a lot easier loans to be had. Well, now here we are today, and well, first of all the quote unquote, or not all, but a good number of the quote unquote easy loans, right? Those guys bought a house a couple years ago. They're sitting at a 3% mortgage rate. They're not moving anytime soon. So out of all the folks that are left, and I think this is kind of a really interesting or scary statistic, whichever way you look at it. Well, the number one hindrance for folks to be able to buy a house is the lack of savings, the lack of down payment. And if you look at this chart, I threw this out on my daily email a couple of weeks ago, but this was a survey from YouGov, and it was 40% of U.S. adults have less than $1,000 in savings. That's pretty frightening. But when you really look at it too, I mean, if you add in between 1,000 and 10,000, look how much that number jumps up to. That's a lot of folks that don't have enough money for down payment, let alone closing cost. And so when it comes to how do we get people into a house, well, I mean, we help them out with getting them past the number one hurdle, which is, cash out of pocket when they want to buy their house. So that's what we're here to talk about today. This this chart also kind of might hammer home the point, right? If you look at the MBA Purchase Applications Index, I mean, you could see, here we are, like all the way. This is data as of last week, and we're hovering at this line, which is, that's the lowest that it's been in 23 years. And I can honestly say I've been in this business now for 25 years, and this is the toughest cycle that we've seen. And so one of the things that we see too quite a bit is, in the past, I think down payment assistance loans may have carried a stigma. And with that stigma, it's like, oh, you know what? That's really for the rookie loan officers to learn. That's really for the loan officers that don't have a whole lot of business, right? That's their niche to go and sell. Well, now we're finding that it's for everybody. I mean, there's just flat out less loans that are out there, and so the borrower, a potential borrower pool typically are going to be tougher borrowers at this time, and so we have to find in any way that we can to generate leads, to generate conversations out there, and I think ultimately, most importantly, like literally put people into houses. You might be hard pressed to find anyone as passionate as I am about when it comes to like the power of home ownership, especially when it comes down to home ownership as a vehicle of wealth creation in this country. And especially when you think about the differences, right, we have in our society between the haves and the have-nots, so much of that boils down to the difference between homeowners versus renters. So let's go put some people in the house or into homes. For those that don't understand, and again, I'm just throwing this out there because this is kind of a 101 class, right, on what is TSAHC. Well, first of all, it's pronounced TSAHC. And yes, I know that sounds kind of weird. It sounds kind of goofy, but even our friends at TSAHC, that's how they pronounce it. So what is it? TSAHC is actually the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, and they are a nonprofit entity. They are a nonprofit state agency, and their mission is to serve the housing needs of low-income Texans, right, and also underserved populations. But I think what you'll find is that these programs, they're not just for low-income or underserved people anymore, right? The market has shifted. But either way, nonetheless, it's good to know to differentiate that TSAHC is truly nonprofit state agency versus, I think, some of the private DPA programs that are out there as well. Because it does make a difference in terms of qualifying and whatnot. So with that, what programs does TSAHC offer? Well, they've got two different main programs, right, that they put out there. Sorry for the interruption. I keep getting people popping into our call here. Let's see. Oh, I had a question. Yes, the presentation will be getting emailed out to everybody. So, so anyway, so what are our programs that we have here? We have the Homes for Texas Heroes Home Loan Program, and then the Home Sweet Texas Home Loan Program. And so what I will say is that one thing that I love about the TSAHC guys is, man, they are really, really good at marketing. And between the Homes for Texas Heroes and the Home Sweet Texas program, you will have enough things to go out there and talk about and generate leads. And as simple as, social media post, and we'll get into that here. So who is a hero, right? What is the Homes for Heroes program? From a marketing standpoint, right, this is a way for us to be able to go out there and say that, hey, we've got special programs for teachers and cops and firefighters and our veterans and school nurses. And, so that is the quote unquote hero designation. And one thing that you'll notice, right, is that these programs, it says public school teachers or school nurses if they work at an ISD, or school librarians. So these are the folks right now that are deemed as heroes. I know I get a lot of folks that also ask, well, what about nurses? Aren't they heroes? Well, yes, that's true, but not all heroes wear capes, right? And nonetheless, from a marketing standpoint, hey, this is great ammunition to be able to go out there and, literally say in week one, hey, we love our firefighters. They protect our houses. So let's help them out and ask us about our special programs for firefighters. And then the next week you can do cops. And then next week you can do veterans. Do you kind of get my point here, right? There's ways for you to go out there and generate conversations. And the big one too, well, especially because we're back in school season, is teachers. How many of, and I just want to put this out there to the group, how many of us know realtors that either possibly are teachers, were teachers, involved in their PTA, involved in their community enough to where they know teachers, right? So there's a way for you to be able to use these programs to also go out there and utilize your referral partners to generate leads, or I should say generate conversations, because ultimately those conversations turn into leads. So, but what happens if your client is not a hero, right? By that designation? Well, that doesn't mean that there's no special programs for them. We do still have special programs for them, and it's called the Home Sweet Texas. So, so think about this, right? So your borrower comes to you and says, man, I see you advertising, Steve, that you've got all these special programs for heroes and teachers and cops and firefighters, but man, what happens if I'm a plumber? That's where Steve gets to respond with, hey, we have special programs for plumbers. It's called the Home Sweet Texas, right? Because this down payment assistance, it's for everybody at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what your profession is. In fact, interestingly enough, the only true difference, and we'll cover this in a little bit, but the only true difference between the Homes for Heroes and the Home Sweet Texas program is that if somebody is getting the down payment assistance in conjunction with the mortgage credit certificate, then TSAHC waives a fee. That's the only difference. But from a marketing standpoint, right, if you put your marketing hat on, yeah, the difference is I get to go out there and advertise that I've got special programs just about literally every profession that I could think of, because it's true, because you do. So how does the down payment assistance work? And again, like I said, please feel free to drop a question in the chat box or in the Q&A if you have any questions. All right. So how does the down payment assistance work? Well, first of all, there's several options available for your borrowers. And the assistance, though, and I just want to point this out, is based on a percentage of the loan amount. Let's see here. Oops, I think somebody's jumping in. Yes. Okay. So the amount of assistance that a borrower is going to get is based on the total loan amount. And while our DPA can go up to 500,000, I use a very simple term here, example, right? So if our loan amount is $300,000 and they're using the 5% assistance program, well, then that means that they're going to get $15,000 in assistance towards their down payment and closing costs. So, just think about that. And one question I do get a lot is, well, what if it's an FHA loan and you have the, is it base loan amount or total loan amount? And that number is the total loan amount. So it's not just the base. Oh, we had a question here. Is it available to charter school teachers? Yeah, so The question is, if it is the teacher program available, or the Homes for Heroes available to charter school teachers? No, because technically the charter school does not work for an ISD, but they would qualify under the Home Sweet Texas program, right? So you still have a special program for teachers that I want you to go out there and advertise and market that you have. Okay. So also with the down payment assistance, super important to know, there's no need to be a first-time home buyer. Plain and simple. I know that's one of the myths that's out there, is that you have to be a first-time buyer to get these types of special programs. That is not true at all. And I've got the perfect example that to just illustrate this. And we've actually got like the second time I've seen this happen in process right now, where a couple, they own a home, right? They currently live in a house. They're converting their existing home into a rental property and using down payment assistance to buy a new house. That's pretty awesome, huh? So again, I don't know of a better way to illustrate the fact that you don't need to be a first-time buyer to utilize these programs. And I think that's such an important talking point for y'all as mortgage professionals to be out there, in your sphere of influence. It's crazy how many people out there, just assume, or they buy into. I blame the talking heads on the news, right? That always talk about, oh, the average mortgage rate based on a 740 FICO score and 20% down is X. Well, no one has 20% to put down, or very few people do, right? But then also folks just assume that, oh man, well, you have to be a first-time buyer. Okay, next. Yes, the assistance can be used to cover both down payment and closing cost. And I think that's just important when you combine the two, right? Because what we're trying to see, what we encourage folks to do, is to get a TBD approval done. And yes, we do to-be determines underwrites. But think about this. I mean, you can use your down payment assistance to cover the down payment and some closing cost, and then get seller concessions to cover the rest. And then you could literally get people into a house with nothing out of pocket. That's pretty awesome in today's environment. So as far as the rates go, it is fixed. It is a fixed interest rate, and it is determined by the amount of the down payment assistance. And we'll cover that here in just a second. So the assistance comes in two forms. Option one is the grant. Now, I'm going to be honest, we're not seeing the grant a whole lot right now. In fact, I don't even know that the grant is available today because of the volatility in the mortgage market, right? It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. And I think it's important just for everybody to note that the financing for these comes from the secondary market. It doesn't come from bond issuance. You will see that sometimes, but not all the time. But that's good though, because for the most part, there's always going to be DPA available. So anyway, I won't spend a whole lot of time on the grant right now because it's not really a viable option. But when it does become a viable option, trust me, you're going to want to sell the heck out of it, because however much assistance the borrower gets, it's going to be given after the borrower makes 6 payments. So think about that for a second, right? You're able to get a borrower into a house. Let's use that $300,000 sales price. 5% assistance, it's $15,000. You talk to your borrower and you explain to them that, hey, I'm going to get you into the house today. Yeah, the interest rate's going to be a little bit higher. I know we talked about that. But after you make 6 payments, we're going to refinance you into a lower market rate. Right? So we get the borrowers in the house. It presents an opportunity for you to have a secondary transaction, well, really within 12 months. The amount of assistance that comes with the grant comes with 2%, 3%, 4%, and 5% assistance options. But again, grant's really not viable very often right now because of the volatility in the market. So our most popular option here, and this is what we're doing a lot, is this 3-year deferred forgivable second lien. I know that's a lot to roll off the tongue there. So what is the 3-year deferred forgivable second lien? Well, it's truly a second lien that's available for FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional loans as well. So you can do it on all loan programs. It's 0% interest on that second lien. So again, I'm going to use the $300,000 loan amount, right, with the $15,000 5% assistance. Well, that is a second lien that's sitting out there at 0% interest with no payments due. So it's not accruing anything, and there's no payments due. It's literally just floating out there silently. Now, why is that important? And I use that, and I talk about this a lot, and I try to educate folks to really differentiate the difference between the TSAHC and maybe some private DPA programs that, heck, even we have the ability to offer, but we don't because it's not as beneficial as this product. Some of the private DPAs out there, right? The amount of assistance the borrower gets is amortized. Like, there's a payment attached to it, which means that there's a payment that's added to your DTI, which right now you guys see it as much as I do. Everybody's DTI is stretched, right? I think that's one thing that we can all agree on, right? It's expensive. So the beauty, again, there's no payments on that second lien, so it does make it actually a little bit easier to qualify. The amount of assistance that they get is completely forgiven after 3 years. So in 3 years, you're going to get a little piece of paper in the mail that says, poof, the amount of assistance you got has now been forgiven. The rates are also lower than the grant product when the grant is available, and you have options between 2, 3, 4, and 5%. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't recommend, ever doing a 2%. Rarely would I recommend doing a 3%, in all honesty, but the 4 and the 5% assistance programs, all day, every day. I think these are the best ways, in my opinion, after doing these so long and seeing how many loans we've done, of really maximizing the opportunity for your borrowers. Notes on conventional loans, just to put out there, is that you have 3% down payment options. So so you could actually do the Fannie Mae Home Ready 97% and use the DPA to go with that. So if you think about that, for example, you've got 97% LTV. Let's say you were getting 5% for the assistance, right? So you'd have a 102 CLTV. So again, there you've got the down payment and then some of your closing costs covered. Both DU and LP are okay on the conventional loans. Possible advantage, there's no upfront mortgage insurance premium. That matters to some people. But I think the biggest reason why we see folks utilizing a conventional loan program versus FHA or versus any other is the non-purchasing spouse debt. Again, in today's environment, DTIs are stretched everywhere. And so when you have a non-purchasing spouse that may have a ton of debt, that may push them over the edge on FHA, but if we can get them to go conventional, right, and not have to include the NPS debt, then there's an option, a possible way to put your loan together. Another thing too is obviously with conventional loans, there's no CAVRs pull. So if you've got somebody that may have some issues with CAVRs out there, let's say they had some trouble with the SBA or student loans or something back in the past, they're not eligible for FHA financing, we could do them unconventional. Just to point out, and I think this is important, I'll cover it here and again too in a little bit, but there are options for both being above 80% AMFI and also below. So you do have options with this. When it comes to property types, these programs are great for both new and existing loan types, or I'm sorry, property types. So townhomes, PUDs are okay. 1 to 4 unit. So you can do, think about this, for example, and gosh, I wish when I was 21, I wish I knew this, but yeah, you can get down payment assistance, get an FHA loan and buy a fourplex and rent out the other three units. That would be pretty awesome. But again, that is a great thing to go out there and talk to realtors about and generate conversation out there, right? Manufactured homes are okay. I will say that, and this is from a lender standpoint, we want to look at the property before you go out there and really make an offer on it. So we will only allow double wides, and there's a minimum 640 FICO for that. But we want to look at the properties, right, just to make sure that it's even a property that we're willing to lend on. The property does have to be owner occupied. And again, this is one thing that I think is special too, is that there's no geographic restriction other than the house has to be in the state of Texas. So that's from Brownsville to Texline, from El Paso to Beaumont. I mean, the whole state of Texas is covered with this. For additional things as far as the credit goes, It is a 620 minimum credit score for government loans. There is an option to do a manual underwrite. We've got one I know in process right now for what it's a great, beautiful loan. It just doesn't happen to approve for whatever reason, and so we are having to do it on a manual underwrite. I will say that the maximum DTI for manual underwrite is a 43. That's TSAHC's guideline, but we could still get the loan done. Minimum credit score for conventional loans is 640. And technically, there's no DTI restriction with a TSAHC loan, as long as you have an AUS approval, right? But what I will say is that the number one thing we're going to look at is, does the loan make sense? We want to make sure that we're not putting a borrower into harm's way. We're not going to set a borrower up for failure. We're not going to take the 57 back end ratio that has been living with mom and dad and has, now their payment's going to be $2,500 a month, and their checking account shows that their balance never gets over $250, right? Where on earth is that borrower going to be able to make a $2,500 mortgage payment? So we're just going to double check, and we're going to look at anything over 50. But I think it's important to point out, we're doing loans over 50 DTI all the time, right? We're just going to look at them a little bit closer and make sure that does the loan make sense? That's the number one thing we want to look out for. And your borrowers are required to take a first-time home buyer class. There's several options that are available. My favorite right now, though, is probably the Fannie Mae HomeView Home Buyer Assistance class. Why? Because it's online and it's free. Borrowers don't have to pay anything. So now the next question is, how else do they qualify for these products? Well, and again, this is where I think it comes into, and I just want to point out, it comes into play with the income limits, right? So the HEROES program, and just for example here, right, you can go up to 115% of the AMI. For the Home Suite Texas, again, up to 115% of the AMI. And again, this just kind of points out, right, teachers, teachers' aides, school librarians, school nurses, and these are just if they work for an ISD. Otherwise, they would fall under the Home Suite Texas program. So here's our income limits. Excuse me. And this may be kind of hard to see, so don't worry. When we send out the presentation, I'll send a link to where this is, you can actually get the PDF. It shows our income limits. But I want to point this out. So if your county, where the property is listed at, is not listed in this column here, then you're going to go off of this top row for the income limit. And so you can see here that, so if you're doing a loan in Big Bend, right? Big Bend County is not down here. Then in Big Bend, the median income per loan application is $112,625. If the property happens to be in a targeted area, then it jumps up to $126,140. But just to point out that the major metro areas here, I mean, you can see here the Austin, so that's Bastrop, Caldwell, Hayes, Travis, Williamson County, right? It's a huge chunk of Central Texas there. Their income limit per application is $146,000. Targeted area 163,520. The Dallas area, so Collin, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Hunt, Kaufman, Rockwall. I mean, so a big chunk over here. 128,875. Again, targeted area 144,340. For the Fort Worth side of things, it's 119,851, 134,233. And then my little neck of the woods down here in San Antonio, again, 119,960. So you can see, I mean, we've got, these are some pretty high income limits, all things considered, when you're looking at qualifying somebody for a house. So again, just to point out, this isn't just for low income folks. This is for everybody. And the reason why it's important that I point out per application income, and here I'm going to pick on Austin. I'm going to use Austin, for example. Let's say that we have two borrowers. Borrower A makes $100,000 a year and borrower B makes $50,000 a year. Combined, that's 150, right? They make too much money for the base down payment assistance program. But if I can make the loan work with just borrower A, then I don't need to include borrower B's income. Another example that I could use for the income here is we've got a loan in process right now. The borrower qualifies just on his base income. He makes overtime, but if we include the overtime for qualifying, he'd make too much money for down payment assistance. So we're actually just qualifying the borrower off the base, and then we're moving on down the road and getting him into a house. Let's see here. Oh, I got a question here on the rate, or on the thing here. So can this be used on hobby farms? No, unfortunately, hobby farms do not count. But it is important just to point out that yes, you can use the DPA or the closing cost assistance programs with USDA loans. Let's see here. So no NPS income on FHA. So yes, so if you're doing FHA loan and we're not using the NPS for qualifying, then we do not include that income against them to qualify here on the income limit. Let's see here. And then I've got another question. Mary says, it says interest rate is determined by DPA. When everybody gets the same rate, but if you get 5%, it's a higher rate than if you get 3%. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to cover the rates here in just a second. But I hope this makes sense, right? So this is, again, you've got options here, definitely things to go out there and talk about. The next question I get here is, what is a targeted area? So, and I've just used San Antonio here just for the illustrative purposes, and I'm going to show you guys the website here in a second. But for targeted areas here, right? So there is a map, and you could zoom in, you could zoom out, and anywhere on the map that's in a shaded gray area, that would be considered a targeted area. So then that would give you, so this is San Antonio, for example, right? So San Antonio, so my income limit jumps from 119,960 all the way up to 134,355. And I could use that here. Now, it's important question. How do you get paid? So yes, because of these programs, these TSAHC programs, they are coming from a state agency. They are coming from a nonprofit. Revenue is restricted on these loans. So there's part of the reason why retail shops have primarily done these in the past. Well, because retail companies can possibly absorb some of that a little bit easier. But now for you as the broker, it's extremely competitive out there, and so you could still do these loans, generate them, and still make money. So how do you get paid? So first of all, the maximum broker fee is 150 basis points. Now, it's important to point out credit of 150, so it washes out. So how does that work exactly? Well, the total SRP on these loans, right? So in the secondary market, the total SRP is only worth 150 basis points. So we're giving you 150, or you're charging 150, we're giving you 150, we're giving you the total SRP. You can also charge a processing fee. So if you're processing in-house, or if you're using contract processing can be charged and paid. For my folks that are processing in-house, you can also charge a processing fee. So you can do 150 plus processing. These are borrower paid compensation loans. So you have that flexibility there. So as far as our process goes, really what it boils down to, and I say this a lot, our philosophy really is you catch them, we'll clean them and fry them. So our processes over here is basically, you've got a dedicated team at your service, right? You've got Steve, you've got Jordan, you've got your account managers, you've got us as salespeople to help you. Everybody is at your beck and call to a certain degree when it comes to getting this loan down. But when you do submit that down payment assistance loan, the first thing you're going to do is obviously upload your 3/4 XML to MFStpo.com. You're going to reissue credit, you're going to run AUS, and then you're going to upload your credit docs and hit submit. At that point, the loan is going to be reviewed by our DPA team, by Steve or by Jordan, and they're basically going to call you up and be like, "Hey, you're way over the income limit," or "Hey, we've got an AUS refer," or they're going to say, "Hey, well, what if we tweak this and change this here, and now we can make it work." So the bottom line again is we're here to do all that piece for you. And again, with the We Clean Them and Fry Them, yeah, there's forms that need to be submitted to TSAHC. There's stuff that has to be put into their online portal. We handle all that for you. You don't have to mess with any of that. So for the folks out there that are coming from retail shops, where at retail shops, you might have had to do the reservation of funds and the pre-closing packages. You don't have to mess with that anymore. We handle all of that. TBDs, absolutely okay. We love TBDs. I suggest them. Especially in today's market where you have limited inventory, loans are just tougher. It's better to get that borrower fully approved before they go out shopping. And then also, I think it just, if you have that borrower fully approved, then I think it also, I know it just gives you better negotiating power, right? Because now okay, we're fully approved at 135 here, but look, if I can get $5,000 in seller concessions with the DPA, then, I can get this borrower in with nothing out of pocket, right? So you get a little bit more flexibility, I think. One of the big things too that kind of gets everybody a little bit confused these days is how people are paid. So I just threw up here income helpers, and yes, we can be your income helpers. We do have a scenario desk. We do have a scenario team that will look at your income for you and do what we can to help you structure a loan. Because again, if we can help you close one more loan, it's one more loan for us too. I put this in there because I just want to point out now, look, the broker is rising. So I was thrilled when I saw this. I think a year ago, I made it a goal. I wanted brokers to be a top 15 originator of TSAHC loans in Texas. And based on the last data I got from last month is from TSAHC is that, look, we cracked the top 15. So now we are number 14, which means you as mortgage brokers are now number 14. So we've got some retail folks up here that we need to go out that have targets on their back, right? Supreme, Fairway, Cardinal, Guaranteed, all good companies. Love the competition, but I want to help you as the broker go out there and beat them. So let's go out there and also think about this. All these people, these retail guys, are probably still just advertising to their referral base to realtors that brokers don't have this. Brokers don't have access to these programs. So I want you to go out there and call BS and make sure they know that brokers sure as hell do have access, and most importantly, are now top 15 in the state. So the myths versus facts, right? Myth, does the borrower have to be a first-time buyer or a hero? No. Fact, this is no. And I think part of the presentation, you guys should take this and use it like for social media posts with your realtors and your spheres of influence. So fact, no, there's no hero requirement and no first-time home buyer requirement to get down payment assistance. Myths, income limits are too low. Borrowers can't make any money. That is total myth. In fact, like we just covered that, but the income limits are very generous here in the state of Texas. Only retail LOs have these programs. Myth. Fact. That's BS. And brokers can earn up to 1.5 plus processing fees. So not only can you do them, you could also make money doing these. Big myth out there is that these loans take too long to close. And the fact is, no, we're closing these 30-day standard contracts are just fine. And a lot of times, it's just 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the file submission. So I think our record, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, don't hold me to it, but was 12 calendar days was the record, I believe. Now, then again, it was a beautifully clean submission, right? We got it in, and we turned around and got it out. Let's see here. Questions. So I'm going to jump over to let's see, some questions in the queue. Let's see here. So yes, so you can charge processing fee even if processed in-house. Yes, absolutely. So yes, you can absolutely, Rob, charge a processing fee if you're processing in-house. And a lot of times too, it's up to you to make this decision or not, but it's not uncommon for us to see maybe $1,000 for processing, $1,200 for processing fees on these for folks processing in-house. So you can make a little extra revenue on there. What's your turn times? Can we do this at 30-day close? Yes, absolutely. And just if that loan doesn't close in 30 days, then something went FUBAR with the loan that had nothing to do with down payment assistance, right? So there was something else that caused that. So with these loans, the borrower would basically be responsible for closing costs only, that any seller concessions don't cover. Am I understanding that correctly? Yeah, that's basically the gist, right? So the assistance can cover down payment and closing costs. And then if you can get seller concessions, awesome. If you don't have seller concessions, they can get a gift. They can, rub two nickels together, find a quarter. They can find a way to do it. Social Security income, can we increase this by 25% as qualified income? Yes, so that really boils down to, basic loan program guidelines. So we follow FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional loan program guidelines. So yes, Social Security income can be grossed up. So question on the processing fee, can you have both Section A and Section B processing fee? No, that part's a no, right? So if you got processing in box A, you're not going to be able to have processing in box B. So unfortunately. What is y'all's underwriting fee? Great question. So our underwriting fee for these is $11.95. There is also a special programs fee of $800 that covers TSAHC's investor fees, their program fees to be able to do it. They itemize it. We just break it all down into one fee called special programs. All right. So real quick, I'm going to show you guys the website. Oops. Just again, I point this out since y'all are here. This kind of goes into just the volatility that we've been facing lately. I don't have to show you guys, right? But I mean, this is the last 5 days. It's just been completely nuts, and so that's why when you lose over 100 basis points in 5 days, you get some fluctuations in market availability. So here are the rates. So this is today's rate. So yeah, so see, the grant is not available today. There were some grant funds available tomorrow. Now, when the market set the price, the market was further down here in the red. Oops. Right. So this is where the market opened. I'll do the 1 day. Yeah. So the market opened down here. And so there was nothing for the grant. Now it's up here. So we may see some grant tomorrow. But again, until you get into 4 and 5% assistance on the grant, personally, I just don't think it's not that useful. But for the 3-year deferred forgivable second lien, so look, there's no 5% available today. And again, I'm going to chalk that up to the market volatility that was out there this morning. But the 4% assistance is available, and the rate on that is 8.125%. The 3% assistance available is here, and it's at 7.75%. Now, we're going to do another webinar because trust me, I could talk for a whole nother hour on the mortgage credit certificate. But there is another tool at your disposal for these, for options for these loans and for really any loans, and that is the mortgage credit certificate. The cool thing about the MCC is that it would literally turn this 8.125% interest rate into 6.5%. There's my teaser for our next webinar, which we'll do here in a couple of weeks. But yeah, so we'll show you how to do that. But again, just point this out. We're doing these loans all day, every day, and it shows me that folks that need the down payment assistance, they're not that rate sensitive. So you really don't have to be worried about, oh my God, they're going to freak out if they see 8.125. No, they're really not, because when push comes to shove, it's the difference between them continuing to waste money on renting versus on, at least beginning the mission on home ownership. So let's push them. Don't be timid. Don't be afraid. And the state sets the rates, right? So it's not like, if that borrower says your rate is too high on a TSAHC down payment assistance loan, anywhere they go, the rate is going to be the rate. And theoretically, you could even point out that the public can get in here and can pull up the rates for today. Here's the income limits. Again, I'm going to send this chart out to you guys so that way you have it. Here's that map that I was telling you about, the targeted areas. And I've got a great story on the targeted areas. This was a few months ago. This was back in, I think, December. Loan officer here in up in the Metroplex called me up and was freaking out. John, this borrower needs to get a house. At the time, they were They were over the base income limit, but they were under the targeted area income limit. And so what it did was it showed the originator how to use this map and get what they got with their realtor, and they were able to find a house for the borrower somewhere over here in South Dallas. And it was a win-win for everybody, right? Borrower got a new house, right? Starting the mission of homeownership. That's the most important thing. Number two, this is also awesome. The loan officer became, that realtor insurance commission or commission insurance, right? Because the loan officer had the wherewithal to go, you know what? We're going to get this borrower into a house here in a targeted area. You saved the realtor's commission. And when you could save a realtor's commission, you're really going to, gain some more of that loyalty. Again, home buyer programs, as I cover up here, Homes for Heroes, Home Sweet Texas. I'm going to send you these links so that way you guys have them. But there's a lot of resources available on TSAHC's website. There is a training class that you as an originator need to take before you can actually lock one of these loans. And again, I was going to send you this link. You're only required to take what's called Module 1. And you're going to go to this link. You're going to sign up. And then you're going to log in. A little Google Chrome thing's going to pop up. Right. Right. You're going to log in. The class only takes about 45 minutes. So yeah, so to get the module one training done. Uh-oh. And my internet here at Dallas Love Field is a little wonky right now. But anyway, you guys will get the gist. It's a short series of short YouTube videos, very simple. But that's it in a nutshell. This is our website. If you don't have credentials, please reach out to us. We'll make sure you get your credentials, and let's get you rolling. Let's see here. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Not sure if you can hear me. We have a sample, Ellie. Oh, yes. No, Steve, we can't hear you. You're muted. You should be able to talk, though. Let's see here. And who pays the $800 fee? The borrower. Yes. So that $800 special programs fee. Oh, he's called in and he can't unmute. Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Steve. So we'll make sure to send out the sample LE when we send the presentation out to everybody. But so yes, so who pays the $800 fee? That is going to come from the borrower, which can be paid for out of the assistance that the borrower is going to get. All right. Do we have any more questions, comments, concerns? Let's see. Myra, you've got a hand raised. I'm ready. Let's roll, Raquel. I'm ready. Let's roll. Yes, Raquel. Absolutely. Let's rock and roll. I just, and I just want to point this out there. I just can't reiterate this enough. The winners in this cycle. This is the toughest market I've seen in my 25-year career. But I guarantee you this, the winners that are going to come out of this cycle on the other side are going to be those mortgage professionals that are out there generating the most conversations. And when it's a very simple way to generate a conversation when you have something that people need, and that's money for down payment. That's teaching your realtors how to use these programs to go out there and generate leads. You can do it. So with that, guys, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll be getting this out to you soon. Please reach us with anything else. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Remember, you know her? Robin, I don't remember her freaking last name. She's got one she's submitting. There's the hand girl. I've got like 4 people that I don't even know their last names.
Oh my gosh, has this thing just been running?
Your computer?